All right, folks. Well, I want to welcome y'all here to Bear County Extension Office this morning. Again, my name is Sam Longo. I recognize a lot of familiar faces from the first session that we had, so I want to thank y'all for taking time to come back and join us for round two. And we're excited to have Jessica Alderston, our urban biologist here in San Antonio of Parks and Wildlife, joining us again today, and he presents some information about appreciating backyard wildlife. Jessica?
Awesome. Okay, so real quick, I just want to thank you guys all for being here. Many of you were here the last time, so I'm happy to see that you're here, and that we didn't scare you away the last time that we're here with you. So I appreciate you guys spending time with us for the next 2 hours talking about how we can appreciate backyard wildlife and even how we can encourage wildlife. And so I mentioned this the last time, but a great way to support non-game conservation in the state of Texas is through purchasing one of our license plates. So Parks and Wildlife has a variety of different types of license plates that benefit different, such as inland fisheries, coastal fisheries, our big game program. But these three particular license plates, the money goes back to non-game conservation. So lizard, rattlesnake research, hummingbird research, all those species that are not hunted, the funds for this go back. There's $30 for the license plate, and $22 of that goes to non-game. So historically, we just had the horned lizard, and now just in the last 2 years, I guess, we recently came out with the rattlesnake and then the hummingbird. And so these are a great way to support conservation in the state of Texas. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. Anybody have one of these license plates already? No? Not yet? Okay, we should go out and get one. I really like the horned lizard just because it's kind of classic. But, you know, and it's funny because these two were tied because we put out a bunch of different license plates, and these two were tied, so we were only going to release one more license plate, but we decided to go ahead and release both of these and have a his and hers. So we figured those guys would be attracted to the rattlesnake. Yeah.
Luckily, I don't know. I heard that the fire ordinance was decimating the forest.
So it's not their direct impact on them, but on their food source. So for the horned lizard, the issue is that their main diet consists of the harvester ant. It's a particular species of harvester ant. While the red and pointed fire ants are in direct competition with those harvester ants, and so that's causing their populations to decline, which means the food source for the horned lizard is declining, which is why. And then also, you know, habitat loss as well. But mainly, no, it's direct competition with their main. Okay, so let's get this party started. So today we're going to talk about appreciating backyard wildlife. And I thought, well, talking for 2 hours on appreciating backyard wildlife, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say for 2 hours about that, right? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the wildlife, then we're going to talk about something that I think is a little bit more important, which is how you could potentially attract wildlife that you want to have in your backyard by the use of native plants. So we'll talk about our Wildscape program, the Backyard Habitat program, importance of pollinators, what species you want to attract, and what things you might plant to attract those. That's what we're going to kind of talk about. So there's lots of different wildlife species that are in the urban environment. Hence the reason why I'm an urban wildlife biologist, right? So we have biologists specifically to deal with urban wildlife issues in San Antonio and Houston and Austin and all these big cities, because many of our wildlife species are what we call generalist species, meaning that they eat a variety of food, and then they can live out at Government Canyon, which is where my office is, or they can live in your neighborhood too, right? And so there's even been research that shows that some of these species do better in urban areas than they do in rural areas. So for example, raccoons, they do really, really well in urban areas because they've got lots of food to eat. They eat off of our grass, they eat off of berries that we plant, farms, and things like that. And so out in the rural area, they have more chances of getting endangered with predators than they would in an urban environment. So their populations do actually much better. So I brought all these great wildlife species up here, and a lot of people will hone in on this particular individual, right? Snake. So like, how many of you guys would want to attract snakes to your yard? Maybe one or two people raised their hand, but everyone else was like, no way. Well, I have to say, I saw this the other day on Facebook, and it cracked me up. The only three kinds of snakes that scare me: the big ones, the little ones, and the ones with sticks that look like snakes. And so I'm a biologist, and I'm not a huge fan of snakes. If it's far away, at that table, I'm good. I can appreciate it from here, but I don't want to be any closer to that. We talk about snake identification and the shape of their head and where their eyes, the way that their eyes look, the pupils of their eyes, the way that they're slanted, and I'm like, I don't want to get close enough to a snake to look at any of that stuff. I want to be able to identify it from afar. And so I put this up here just to let you guys know that, yes, when you put in a Wildscape, you can't say no snakes allowed, right? You can't put a sign that says no snakes allowed. So there's a chance that you might have a good habitat where snakes are going to be there. And it's a good thing. And you have to understand that snakes have their place in the environment and the ecosystem, and that everything is interconnected, right? So if you go and you remove all the snakes in Bear County, what do you think is going to happen? Well, the bird population is going to explode, right? Same with coyotes. We've had it where people get upset because there are coyotes in the neighborhood. And so up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they just decided to go through and start heavily trapping coyotes. Well, within about 6 months, everybody was complaining because their houses were overrun with rodents. And so everything is interconnected. So if you remove one or two things from the ecosystem, something is going to be affected by that, right? So even though we may not like snakes, we can appreciate them, right? And then maybe we can do some practices that we'll talk about on how to keep them not close to your house and maybe further out into the landscape, but not right up on your house. So like I mentioned earlier, wildlife watching is probably one of the number one things that people like to do in the state of Texas. So right now, it's considered non-consumptive use of wildlife, and so the consumptive uses would be hunting and fishing. And right now, only 4.6% of our population hunts and fishes. So the rest of the population is out there enjoying the wildlife by, looking at binoculars. I love this picture here. You go to all these parks and areas where you can go out and you can see these wildlife viewing blinds. Where you can actually go and you're not going to scare away the wildlife. You can sneak up in here and be able to look out and watch wildlife. And so that's something that's becoming very, very popular. But you don't necessarily have to travel to do that. You can do wildlife watching from the comfort of your own home if you have the right plants and things in your backyard. So what are some of the things that make up a habitat? What do all animals, to include us, what do we need to survive? Water, shelter, food, and space. Everybody always forgets about that space, right? So in this room, we're all nice and spaced out. We've got our elbow room, right? Well, what would it be if we all had to sit at this one table, right? It'd be a little crowded, right? You're kind of like, I'm not going back to her presentation. That was very fun, right? And so we want to have things, so we want to have room to move around, right? And we want to have all of that stuff, food, water, and shelter, arranged in space so that we can safely get from one place to the other to meet the needs that we have on a daily basis without simply being exposed to predators, right? So here's some examples of food in nature. So it can come from nectar, other animals, right? Berries, seeds, and the vegetation. So there's a lot of natural food out there. Water in nature occurs from the groundwater to streams to lakes and ponds to even some little puddles that maybe aren't there all the time. Shelter in nature, different cavities. You have lots of species that are cavity nesting, not only birds but also invertebrates and all kinds of other critters. Nests, hollow logs, something as simple as this. All kinds of critters utilize this as shelter or even keep it as their home. And then brush piles, which probably the snakes like the brush piles, right? And then spacing in nature. So we want to make sure that we have a diversity of plants and a diversity of, we call them layers. So you want to have grasses, you want to have some shrubs, you want to have some tree tall canopies. So you want to have layers and you want to have diversity. And that's what's going to end up attracting your wildlife into Wildscape. And so, depending on the map that you see, there's a couple of different maps out there, but we usually use this map the most. There's about 10 different ecological regions in the state of Texas, which is amazing because we're such a huge state, and we have 10 different ecoregions throughout our state, which means we are really, really diverse. So we have a lot of different plant life and a lot of soil types, which means we have a lot of wildlife species that can thrive within our communities because we're so diverse, which is amazing. It's one thing that we can really gloat on about our state. However, 7 of the 10 of those ecoregions are quickly threatened because of urbanization. Because everybody wants to live in San Antonio and Austin and Dallas and Houston, right? So, unfortunately, these ecosystems are threatened because of all the development that's going on and how our environment is changing because we're having new homes and new schools and new places to shop being built every single day. So here we are in Bexar County. Just in Bexar County alone, we have 3 different ecological regions. And you're like, why is he talking about ecoregions? What does this matter? Well, it has to do with knowing what types of plants and vegetation were historically here so that we know what plants we should be planting in our yard to attract the wildlife that we're wanting to attract. So you wouldn't want to put some kind of tropical plant in your yard and expect to not ever water it and expect it to survive, right? So if you start planting plants that are originally found in Florida or along the coast of Texas, do you think they're going to do very good here in San Antonio? Probably not, right? Not without a lot of TLC. You're going to have to water them a lot and fertilize them a lot. We really don't want to have to do that, right? Especially with watering, because we're always getting put on water restrictions, and we're having to restrict the amount of water that we're using. So in just Bexar County alone, we have a small little sliver there in the middle where we have Black Pine Prairie, and then we have the South Texas Plains, which is the lower portion of Bexar County, and then the Edwards Plateau, which is the uppermost portion of Bexar County. So any of those ecoregions are throughout the county. So historically, when we have development in an urban area, what do you think happens to our once nutrient-rich soil that thrives and makes all these diverse plants be able to grow? What do you think happens to the soil when we develop stuff? Put stuff on it.
They scrape it off.
They just take it away, right? So it goes from being very nutrient-rich to being severely compacted. Many times they're just removing all the native soil, and sometimes even bringing in non-native soil to help level out that property, right? What happens to the vegetation? It's gone, right? It dies, and it gets replaced with what I call these little mushroom trees, right? So most of the species in here are not native. And so why are not native plants a concern for us? A lot of times they overtake the native plants that we have that we want to encourage to grow, and they usually take a lot of water. You have to fertilize them, and you have to use pesticides, and all of that can end up in our water systems because of the amount of runoff that we have in our urban areas. Yes.
And they may not necessarily feed our
local wildlife. Right, yeah, very good point. And then what do you think happens to our water systems in urban areas? They go from being very natural looking and being able to filter out pollutants and having a more natural system to these channelized areas where people think, oh, well, let's just get water out of the city as quickly as possible. Let's do a big concrete channel so that we can get the water out. But unfortunately, we don't think about the effects of when the water comes rushing through, and you can see all this erosion, evidence of erosion, you can see all the pollution, and it just doesn't look very healthy, right? Even somebody that doesn't know a whole lot about what healthy ecosystems look like, you can look at this and say, this doesn't look healthy at all. So there's kind of a general trend in urban areas where we have our specialist species are lost. And so those species are ones like the horned lizard and like the green tree frog and, prairie dogs and then the pink and buntings. However, the pink and buntings, I think, are starting to get a little bit more adaptable because I see them in my neighborhood. I live right outside of Government Union we're on in 1604, and I've seen them in my neighborhood. So I think they're starting to adapt. But historically, these animals, they require a specific type of food or a specific type of habitat or both. And so you start removing those food sources. So like the harvester ant, well then the horned lizard is drastically declining, right? And so you start seeing those species, they either have to move to a new place where they can find those needs, or they end up not being able to survive. And then our exotics tend to increase. People always say, wait, why do you have pigeons up here? They're everywhere. They're native to Texas. Well, no, they're not. Just because they're here in Texas and we see them all over the place doesn't mean that they're native. So pigeons are not from here, just like feral hogs are not native, but they're all over our state. Just like tiny hallows are not native, but we have them all over the place, right? And I will tell you that I have even gone into some of these box store nursery type facilities, and people there have tried to tell me that Chinese hallows are native because they're all over Israel. So I'm like, but they're not. Well, but they are because, and this is one of our highest selling, trees. Well, yeah. So there's definitely a gap in education there, right? So basically, those types of communities, they're selling what people are demanding. And so we try to change the mindset of people that are out there, like you guys talking about native plants, then they go to these local nurseries and they're demanding native plants, and then they're going to start hearing what people are demanding. Yeah.
Are there certain plants that nurseries are not supposed to sell, like Beautyberry or Wildscape, or these are really invasive?
I do not believe at this time that there are any regulations on that.
Let's do that.
That would be awesome if we could do that, absolutely. But, I mean, I think that, my counterpart, Beautyberry, she's been in this office a lot longer, and she's tried to work with a lot of the nurseries and educate them on why it's important to carry these natives. And there are, like, the ones that are listed in that packet. They do focus on trying to carry as much natives, but they even carry some non-natives because they carry what people will buy. And so really it's an education. So with the help of the native plant societies and the master naturalists and the master gardeners, going out there and educating people on why we need to encourage people to do native plants, I think over time the change will come. And that will be the new norm, I hope. I hope. And so what are these guys? Anybody know? Nutria. So they look very similar to beavers, however, they don't have the big round tail like a beaver does. The beavers, they're native to this area, but nutria are not. They're an exotic species, and they have a long rat tail. So if you see something that looks like a beaver that has a long rat tail, it's probably a nutria that you're seeing. And then we've got the Norwegian rats, and then how many of you guys see these guys? The Venturing gecko probably all over your house, right? Your cat brings it in, or your dog plays with them. So, yeah. Well, wouldn't that be nice if you could remove all the pigeons, but it's difficult. It's just like, trying to eradicate feral hogs, because, that's a big focus. Yes, yeah, you can do what you need to do to remove it. No. As long as it's your own property, then yes, absolutely. Same with the feral hogs. They encourage landowners to remove the feral hogs because they do so much damage to the ecosystem, and they're in competition with a lot of our native wildlife species, and so they definitely are a big issue.
Are there any predators? For those four, the mice obviously, the snakes, for the nutria, do you know there's a predator there? There's in the water.
Right. Yeah. Then if a coyote may occasionally be able to hit one if it's a young one, or maybe 6, or something like that. But we haven't seen nutria. But we don't really have the water source out there either. We don't really have beavers either. Porcupines you have. Haven't seen beavers.
I was with the river biologist yesterday. It was 2 days of class. And this is on the decline because of number one, the feral hog, and the habitats are diminishing.
Good.
So they're not
as big of a problem as they've been.
Yes, they're almost being dropped off that list.
Right. Well, that's great, because I know when I worked at the Metroplex, there's lots of bodies of water everywhere in the Metroplex. I worked with several communities that were having big time challenges with the nutria. So that's good to hear that they're not that big of an issue.
The Civil Nature Center was having trouble.
And I know the city of San Antonio is tracking in some of their creeks and streams also, along with the Antonio River, they have contracted. But I don't know, I haven't heard this year if their numbers have declined or not. Yes.
Practice is otter and Maria related.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. They look kind of similar though, and even with a zebra face too, if you put a zebra up, they look very, very similar. Otters are much cuter than these guys, I think. And then typically we see, and this is all kind of the same for plants too, so we see kind of this general trend too for plants. And so for the animal species, we also see that our mineral species increase. And so these are the guys that can adapt very well to the changing environment, that can live out at Government Canyon on 13,000 plus acres, or they can live underneath your patio if you allow them, where you're attic if you allow them, right? And so, everywhere from coyotes to deer to different bird species, raccoons, opossums, all kinds of critters, right? So we have this nice, beautiful habitat, with some native grasses, some wildflowers, some brush in the background, and then they decide, it always happens, oh, this would be a great place for a new shopping center, right? So what do? They bring in the bulldozers, they start clearing all of the habitat, they put up a nice big sign to get everybody excited about the new Kohl's or the new Bass Pro or whatever's coming up, right? And then within a very short period of time, everybody remember the old Albertson? Everybody remember Albertson, right? It's like a long time ago. But not too soon after they put up that sign, you start seeing cars parked in the parking lot and now open signs, right? And so it does not take very long for them to make this happen. And so in the meantime, nobody's really thinking, well, how is this affecting the big picture of our ecosystem? How is this affecting our wildlife species? I know out of Government Canyon, the Ecological area, which is where my office is, we have all kinds of neighborhoods and a middle school that was just put out there. People are calling us all the time saying, you're feral dogs, and you're coyotes, and you're this, and you're that, are tearing up my neighborhood. Well, they're not ours, they're all ours, right? And it's because of all the development. So they're now being displaced, but they're able to adapt. And so these hogs like being in neighborhoods because it's easier for them to root up the soil, right? Because we're watering rather than in Government Canyon, and the soil is harder to eat, so hardly just have a pencil in there, right? And so they like to be out in these neighborhoods. So again, the vegetation is removed and the soil is altered, and sometimes even completely removed as well. All the native food sources are removed, so then these species that once existed in these areas where the habitat is being removed are having to go into neighborhoods to look for food. And so these general species tend to do really, really well. And then we have the loss of land. So typically, go out to Government Canyon, you see the grasses, you see the forests, like all the wildflowers and all the stuff that's growing up in between the grasses, and then you see the mid-story, and then you see the canopy cover, right? So there's a variety of plants out there. And you could walk just a few minutes and already identify like 20 plants within just, walking around for 4 or 5 minutes out of Government Canyon. So there's a lot of diversity. Where are the layers here? Yes, right? The 2-story houses. So is wildlife going to benefit from a 2-story house? No, right? Are you still going to see wildlife? Yes, probably. You're probably still going to see wildlife, especially when you put your trash out. What about in our parks? This is always a big challenge. So we try to work really closely with cities and work with parks and encourage them to encourage the natural stuff that's supposed to be there to continue growing, and that everything doesn't have to be clear cut. I mean, we've had landowners call us before and say, I just bought this piece of property and it's really great, and I went out there and I cleared the whole property. Now what do I do with it? And we're like, no, because it's our mindset, right? We're shaped and modeled to think that everything has to be clean cut, and like this store, especially if you're from the city, you get letters on your door that say, hey, your grass is too tall and your grass is only this tall, right? And so we are modeled to think that that is what normal nature is supposed to look like. Or we go to a park and we see this, this is great, they left the trees, right? But they did something that we call lowlanding, where they totally eliminated the understory and cut all these branches, so there's no mid-story at all for all these other wildlife species to be able to utilize.
Can you repeat that? You call that what?
Low limbing?
Low hanging.
Yeah, so they go in and just basically cut a bunch of the lower hanging limbs to eliminate that mid-story. And then again, we go back to the little mushroom trees, and so basically most of these are exotics. And so again, the issue with this is a lot of times you're having to extensively water these. It takes a lot of time and maintenance to make this landscape look like this. And will wildlife utilize it? Yes. But probably the wildlife that we don't necessarily care to see, mostly the non-native stuff, will have lots of grackles and all kinds of stuff that we really don't care to have in our urban landscape. So why are we concerned especially about the non-native plants? So why we need to switch to doing native plants? Because about 50% of exotics are considered invasive, meaning once you plant that plant, it's going to explode very, very quickly and overtake and kill off anything in its path, right? So I'm sure you guys probably know some plants that are like that you plant it and you just have to do very minimal work to it, you water it a little bit and it's everywhere, right?
And move.
Definitely. There's about 5,000 alien plant species in the United States, and we lose about 1.7 million acres per year in the United States due to invasive plant species. So that's a lot. And think about every new neighborhood that's coming in, and most of these are being already prepped with Bermuda grass and non-native trees and shrubs, and that's just what the nurseries are selling. And so this is just how it is. And how we need to really work to change them. So it's also the number 2 reason for species extinction, both plant and animal, right? Because the native plants that were once here that our wildlife species thrived on is now being removed, and so the species don't have like the painted buntings and all those other species we were talking about that are specialist species. They don't have that, and then also too for the plants, because they're crowding out our native plants that were once down there. We're estimating about $138 billion annually that we're losing because of this, mainly, putting out pesticides and to help to remove some of these non-native. So like the city of San Antonio will sometimes go in and try to spend time and use pesticides to remove non-native species. So all of that money adding up, or some of our agricultural people that are fighting some of the non-natives that are moving into their agricultural fields, they're spending money to have to reduce these exotics. Yes. What's a DVAC? Yes. So how can we change it? Yes. Yes. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then, like I said, sometimes. So when I was out at the Beautyberry State Park, we had a pond right next to our office, and somebody had dumped. You get aquatic tanks. People go out there and they dump the aquatic tanks. And I think it was like parrot feathers, some aquatic plants, and they dumped it, and within months, the entire pond was covered in this feathery. It was pretty, but it was not native, and it's smothering out. We were finding dead fish, all kinds of critters in the pond because it just basically smothered out the entire pond. We drained the pond, and it was still and then, of course, with birds and everything spreading it, it ended up into a full lake. And so just something as simple as a person taking their aquatic tank going, okay, my kids aren't taking care of this, I'm going to dump it in this pond, not thinking of the repercussions. That's how quickly we can get stuff like that spread. Yeah.
Last I heard from Todd about this was that well over 3/4 of the fish in the San Antonio River, in the San Antonio and Bear County, are non-native, and most of them are the same ones you buy in the store.
Yeah, I believe it. People buy these pets and then they get tired of taking care of them, or they decide they don't want it anymore, and they don't think about the repercussions. We have people dumping stuff out of government canyon all the time, random turtles, and along with domestic pets too. But yeah, dumping them into the waterways and all that is not good.
What should you do with that then? If you haven't pet like that, where should you take them?
Try to find another home, or many times you just call the pet stores and say, hey, we've decided we don't want this fish anymore, they sometimes will take it back so then they can resell it, or, or they'll find another home for it. Definitely don't dump it in our waterways. It would be more humane for it and better for the ecosystem if you humanely euthanized it and disposed of it than actually putting it in the water. Yes.
In the ground.
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. Well, it's like people, with their prescriptions, right? What do you do with them? What would you do if you had a bottle of prescription pills that you didn't take? What would you do? Throw them in the toilet and flush them, or you throw them in the trash and they get out in the landfill. That's not what you're supposed to do. And the pharmacies are now taking a little bit more of an active role and telling people, bring us your unused medications so we can properly dispose of them. How many people do you think will do that?
Not many.
Right, unfortunately, but you guys would, right? You guys know. So let's talk about how we can carefully plan our landscape so that we can sometimes help to offset some of the habitat loss for like some of these specialist species. Now, of course, we're not necessarily trying to encourage coyotes and bobcats to come in our yards, right? Well, mainly when we talk about attracting wildlife to our yard, we're mainly going to be talking about birds and maybe small mammals, but occasionally you might have a coyote or a bobcat pass through depending on the layout of your neighborhood. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what do you think the value of this property would be for wildlife? Not much, right? And it's probably a little scary for a lot of our wildlife species because there's not much cover. So it's just all this Bermuda grass. It looks nice and pretty and green. It doesn't make you want to go do cartwheels, right? It makes you want to go do cartwheels on it. But it really doesn't provide food, doesn't provide water, and definitely doesn't provide shelter for our local wildlife. So you're probably not going to see a whole lot going on in this person's yard. Well, what about something like that? This is an actual wildscape in Austin. How beautiful is that? And can you imagine the number of butterflies and bees and tons of birds and lizards and all kinds of stuff that you would be able to see if you had a yard that looked like this. I wish my yard looked like this. And it's beautiful, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how do you go about creating a landscape. And sometimes when you have a property that just has a bunch of Bermuda grass and you purchase it and you're like, I don't really know what to do or where to start. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So let's talk a little bit about our Wildscape program. So I will tell you this right now. So due to staffing and our current hiring freeze, we are not currently accepting applications for our Wildscape program or for the Best of Backyard Habitat program, but we are currently advertising for that position. So I imagine within the next couple of months, once we get that person hired, hopefully they will start September 1st. Few months in the job, then we will start accepting the applications again. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to start accepting applications. But right now, if you're interested in doing this, just hold on to your stuff until, you can email me and ask me for an update, and I'd be happy to. So right now it says up on the top on our website that we're currently not accepting applications. Yeah. They're located out of Austin. However, I believe on the job description, it's called the information specialist position, and if you like our Facebook page, you put the job announcement on our Facebook page. You can also find it on our website, or if you need me, I can email it to you. It says that you can office within, or you can be within 100 miles of Austin. So if the right person applies for the position, they're willing to negotiate for an actual office out there. So.
And because the area of responsibility would be Austin and San Antonio?
Well, actually, this person covers all of Texas. So they basically are over the Wildscape program, which is all over Texas. Now, you don't have to travel all over Texas. You reach out to your local biologist to say, hey, is this Wildscape good? Is this demo garden good? Because you have a Wildscape program, the Best of Backyard Habitat program, and you also have a demonstration site, which would be like the San Antonio demonstration site. We have one all along the river walk, or has one, I don't know if it's gone yet.
You mean ours?
Yeah, it's gone, okay. So there was some property stuff going on with that one. So like we have one out at Government Canyon. I worked with one out in Uvalde at a library. It was called the Wildscape Demonstration Gardens, and it essentially provides public education to the community and shows them how they can plant native plants and how they can utilize them within their own yards, which is great. So then they are also at that position is also in charge of our new program that we're trying to get put together, which is Bird City program. And so it's not out yet, but we're in the process of putting it together and eventually certify cities as a bird city, basically making bird-friendly choices. So, and then there's a couple other things in the job description. But if you're interested in that job, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to give you some pointers and tell you, what you would maybe need to know for an interview. Because it is within our department. So it's under the Wildlife Division, under the Wildlife Diversity Program, which is what I'm housed under also. So hopefully by December we'll be accepting applications. So essentially, if you just go to our Parks and Wildlife website and type in the search engine Wildscape, it'll take you to this page here, and it gives you all kinds of great information, lots of different resources over here on this side. But basically, you're going to be looking for this Texas Wildscape certification. Under here, too, you can see learn more. There's some designing tips, a plant guidance by ecoregion, which is really helpful. And you click on that button, and it shows you your ecoregion. You click on it, and it'll give you a list of plant species from trees to grasses and everything in between that naturally occur within your ecoregion. So, Texas Wildscape certification, what are the essentials? It basically tells you what we're looking for in certifying a wildscape. So, a wildscape can be something as simple as doing this in your own backyard. It could be doing it in a school habitat. We've certified hospitals. They've done like little butterfly gardens out in the little pavilion areas where the people that are at the hospital can go out and enjoy some of the nature, because there's been lots of research that shows that people feel faster when they're able to be out in nature. So it doesn't just, you can think outside of the box. It doesn't just have to be a certification program for your backyard. So here's kind of just a quick rundown of the program. It's $15. At least 50% of the yard has to be, the designated area has to be native. So, some people say, well, I don't want to have to get rid of all my Bermuda grass right away, or do I have to get rid of all, I just really love this burn of paradise, I don't want to get rid of it. And so, no, you don't have to get rid of all your non-natives. It would be great if you did, but the requirement is you have to at least have 50% of the landscape or designated area has to be native. It does have to be a plant, right? So you can't just say, I'm going to throw out a bunch of wildflower seeds and be like, oh, there's my wildscape, right? So you have to have a little bit of a design plan to be able to put, food. Basically, the idea of the wildscape is that you're providing food, water, shelter, and space for any local wildlife to be able to utilize. And then we have newly designed metal signs that you can put this for an additional $15 so that you can, stretch your stuff and say, yeah, I'm a certified wildscape.
Are you working with laws on this for water grabbing plants and stuff?
Yeah, so we have worked with laws in the past, and they've developed some brochures and information, and then they have the coupons and rebates that you can apply for. And yes, and so it kind of goes along the same. We're not partnered with them on this particular program, but we have partnered with them on developing that information. Yes.
One of those brochures you have is from I thought, one of those little gray colorful ones you have back here?
Maybe, yeah. I think maybe they helped with, because I know Judith was real big on this. Yeah, both of these actually are in connection with that. And then there's actually another fiber-bound booklet.
That's a real excellent thing.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested in that one, let me know, and I can get you a copy of it. But it goes into more detail if you're really, really interested. It goes into more detail than these two things about native plants.
When I was applying for that Wildscape habitat program, there was something about you couldn't just put a water feature out. A simple, it has to be a little bit more active.
Yeah, or there's yeah. So So again, here's the qualifications, at least 50% native plants, right? Food for wildlife year-round. And so it says specifically right on there, we're going to talk about this in more detail, feeder alone will not be considered as a food source, right? But you can put up a bird feeder, but we want to focus again on native plants which provide food for the local wildlife, right? You need to have shelter for wildlife, water for wildlife, and then, then you can submit all of your stuff. So we're going to go through these steps here in just a minute. Then we have the Best of Texas Backyard Habitat Certification Program. So this is like one step up from the Wildscape program. And basically it's a dual certification between Parks and Wildlife and the National Wildlife Federation. So both agencies are looking at the application and deciding who gets the certification and who does not. The certification is $30, and again, you can purchase a sign that you can put up in your demo garden for an additional cost. So this one is a little bit more that you have to actually do. So again, you still have to provide that food, water, and shelter. And again, this is all on our website, so you can look at it a little bit more. But this, you must be taking active measures to control cats, house sparrows, and English starlings on your property. This can include keeping cats indoors, monitoring nest boxes for evidence of these invader species like the house sparrows and the starlings. So a lot of people put up nest boxes for the intentions of a bluebird or some other species, but then these guys end up invading them, and then so pretty much your work is for nothing, right? You don't want to encourage those guys. And then you also must participate in at least 6 of these measures here. So there's a ton of things, and it seems really overwhelming, but when you start reading the list, like mulching, that's pretty easy, right? You're probably going to be doing that anyway. Rainwater harvest. A lot of people are really getting into that, and Bob and CPS Energy and all those people are really getting in and promoting those types of things in communities. Irrigating sparing leaves, zero-scaping, using drip covers. So a lot of these things you say, oh my gosh, you have to get 6 of those. It's a lot easier than you think. You may already be doing some of those things in your yard. So it's one step up from the Wildscape program, so you're held to a little bit higher standard. So like I said, it's more than just a backyard program. You can do this in rural properties, you can do it in your community, in your homeowners association, you can get together with a bunch of people in your community. We've gotten a lot of calls recently about people wanting to come together as an HOA and certifying their whole entire community. As of right now, we don't have a certification program that does that. We just certify individual homeowners within that community, and then maybe they could tout that, hey, all the people, all the homeowners on this street have a Wildscape certification. But it's something that we're looking into, being able to certify an entire community. And so we have worked with communities that are called conservation development that have put in their deed restrictions that they cannot have non-native plants and all of this, but it's more of a conservation development than this Wildscape certification program. But it is something that we're looking into. Hopefully with this new person on board, we have a fresh set of eyes, hopefully some new ideas, and we can maybe revamp some of our Wildscape program and then also with our Bird City program as well. So again, having a yard like this, you're probably having to water a lot. You're probably having to put a lot of fertilizers on, using lots of pesticides, and it's really of no value to most of our wildlife species that we're interested in attracting. So if we change this over to a Wildscape, it would be less water, meaning less expensive too, right? Less pesticides, less expensive, right? And less maintenance. So instead of spending your Saturdays out mowing the grass and weed whacking and putting fertilizer down and watering the grass and doing all the stuff that we see everybody doing in these communities, you're not going to be doing all of that. So then there's going to be less pollution because of all those lawn equipment that you're not going to be using. And then also less noise and less maintenance and, oh yeah, less expensive, right? And less time consuming too. And most importantly, you'd be doing it for the wildlife. So the wildlife would definitely benefit from having all of the native plants that we were just talking about, right? So, I love this. This is a picture. This is Molly Holler. She's up in the Arlington area. This is actually her backyard. And it says, I go to nature to be soothed and healed and to have my senses put in tune once again. So in the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, who wouldn't enjoy coming home and drinking a glass of iced tea or lemonade or some other on the back porch and enjoying something like this, rather than just a Bermuda grass filled yard, right? And so we'd like to enjoy that. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how you create a wildscape. And even if you don't want to go through the whole application process and the certification, this can still, tend to you because you're still wanting to promote native plants in your yard, right? But I don't know why you wouldn't want to go forward with the Wildscape program, if you have all of these great features. The biggest thing is know your resources that you have out there. So if you're just completely at a loss and you're like, I just don't know what to do, feel free to call our office and utilize myself and Judith Green. Judith Green is probably way more experienced with wildscaping and design than I am. That's kind of her passion. And so between the two of us, we can definitely help you kind of come up with a design, a plan, and some ideas off of us with you about what you want. But there's also lots of great resources out there. The Texas Wildscape Gardening for Wildlife book was actually written by one of our urban biologists in Austin and then co-written by several other biologists in Houston, and it includes Judith Green also. This book right here, the Wadowski Native Texas Plants book, is phenomenal. This would be a great resource to have. And if you don't want to purchase these books, we have most of these books in our office. So you're welcome to come check them out, or just hang out with me at the office one day and flip through books all day if you want, or you can check them out and you can take them home with you and look through them. So there's lots of really great resources out there. One, if you live on a property and you don't know what some of these plants are, these would be a great place to start, or even using iNaturalist, the application, to help you identify some of the things you have on your property, or if you're just looking for some ideas for plants. This would be a great place for you to start as well. So what types of wildlife are you wanting to attract? Insects, why would you want to attract insects? Well, I don't know, I don't want insects, all I think about is getting bitten by things, right? But insects also serve as a food source for many of the wildlife that you're trying to attract. Amphibians, reptiles, there's snakes right in there. So maybe you're not intentionally trying to attract snakes, but you may occasionally get a snake or two. Birds. So we have over 600 plus native species of birds just in our state alone. And so that's a lot of species of birds that we could potentially attract to our backyard and be able to see and maybe check off of our bird book that we've been wanting to see. And then, of course, mammals. And I love the little scroll down there saying, I love that bird here. Have you seen the there's a video on YouTube, I encourage you to go look it up after this program, because it's hilarious. So there's a mechanism, it looks like a little dome that you attach your bird feeder to, and essentially it senses the weight of more than a bird on your bird feeder, and it starts spinning the bird feeder. And so you see these videos with the squirrels, like they're hanging on for dear life, and the thing is just rotating around, and eventually they fly off. It's hilarious.
Don't like, the seeds, the white nut seed, I've already done that. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Thank you. Safflower.
Safflower.
Right. So you're going to buy the safflower. They're a little more expensive,
right?
But they don't need it.
Okay.
So it lasts longer.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
I'm glad for that.
Yes.
What's the rule about handling wildlife?
Depends on the species.
Well, for instance, we had a good rain, for days, and heavy runoff, and then when it was over, I didn't know that cul-de-sac was in big trouble. And looked these big hubcaps. So I went out there. But I picked him up and carried him back to the flood zone. Way down.
Yeah.
Is that?
No, that's fine. You always ask, well, should I help the turtle cross the road? And, absolutely. You can do something like that.
I thought there was some really uncomfortable animals.
well, technically, you shouldn't be handling wild animals in a specific species if you really don't want to be handling with a turtle or something like that. Chances are you probably would have been able to find his way back. But if he's in the middle of the street and you're afraid sometimes they can't get up on the curbs and things, and you suspect with all the heavy rain that's where he came from, then go ahead and by all means, do that. So, yeah. Okay, so for providing food, so that's the first thing that you want to do for your wellbeing, provide food. And again, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'll just put a bird feeder, check, let's move on to the next thing. Well, that's not what we're talking about. Now, can you put up a bird feeder? Absolutely. But that cannot be your only source of food within your Wildscape design plan. Otherwise, you'll not get approved. So what are the problems with bird feeders? Lots of problems with bird feeders, right? So we've got all of our non-native species that are attracted, not only non-native bird species, but we've got raccoons that are like guarding it, like, no, this is my food, right? We've got the squirrels that are trying to get into it. This picture up here, do you see how the seed looks really gross and gooey? This is a big, big problem, especially during times when we're having heavy rainfall. So just a few weeks ago, I was getting a couple of calls of people finding dead birds in their neighborhood. And after talking to people in the community, we found out that there are many people that had bird feeders. And I suspect what was happening is that their bird feeders getting wet, and they weren't cleaning out the bird feeders. The birds were then going in and eating it, and they were getting sick because of bacteria or fungus that grows in there, and then it makes them sick and they die from that. And sometimes those birds will also eat fermented fruit, too. So if it's fermented, it's been sitting there for a while, it's been boiling in the hot sun, sometimes we'll see a handful of birds that are dying off. I think there was a story a few years ago about a bunch of mosquito wax and they died off because they ate a bunch of fermented fruit. And so if you do have a bird feeder, we recommend that you clean it out at least every 2 weeks. So you take everything out of it, take it all apart, clean it with, hot, soapy water. You can do a bleach solution, but do like 1 part bleach and 9 to 10 parts water. So just a very teeny amount of bleach. But usually just go hot, soapy water works just fine. Make sure you let it dry really well. Let it sit out in the sun for a day or two. Make it dry really well. And then you can put it all back together and put the bird feed in it. So do that every 2 weeks. And then we recommend only putting the amount of seed that the birds can eat that day in there, which I know that sounds really tiresome, not enough to refill your bird feeder every single day, but it'll be healthier for the birds, and you won't have so much spillage on the ground, because many times people will call me and say, there's bobcats or coyotes near my neighborhood. Well, do you have a bird feeder? Yes. How much bird feed do you put in? Well, I fill it up. I keep it filled up 24/7. Well, probably the squirrels are getting in there. There's a bunch of spillage on the ground. At night, the rodents are coming in. The rodents are then attracting the coyotes and the bobcats. So they're not attracted to the bird feed. They could care less about it. But they're attracted to all the critters that are attracted to the bird feed. To try to clean up any spillage, if you have any spillage on the ground, or to try to prevent that, like preventing these guys. And then we have the lovely furry feral cats, or even owned cats, right? Stalking. So we know that the cats in general have a very negative effect on our wildlife populations, to include birds and lizards and snakes and all kinds of things. There have been studies out of California that show that even a well-fed cat makes an average of 2 pills per day, whether or not they consume that wild animal or not, in their genetics as predators. So if you have cats, don't have a bird feeder. If you have cats outdoors, or if you know of cats that are outdoors, don't have bird feeders. Or have a bird feeder in a way that they cannot get to it, because that basically attracts those birds. They get attracted to that, and then the cat just keeps going back and picking bird after bird after bird. So be really cautious of that as well. People don't like it when I start talking about it. Okay, so again, you want to plant native. Now, I heard some people in the back talking about how, well, this plant's not native on that SOS list, and that's always a struggle, right? What's native, what's not, what's acceptable, what's not, right? So if overall we can go with native, I'd say this is probably the Bible of native Texas plants. If it's in here, you're pretty safe that that is going to be something that is native, but there's always this great debate of what's native or what's not, what was historically here and what wasn't. And so sometimes you may see, like I think even on one of our native plant brochures, didn't they have the Indiana listed? Did they this one? Yeah. And so obviously we don't want to encourage people to plant the Indiana, so mark that one off of your list. But ultimately, it was saw and it was paying for the publication, somehow it got stuck in there, and so, it happens, right? So, know what plants you want to plant, and again, the reason why I talked about those eco regions in the beginning of the program is because you want to plant plants that are specific for your eco region. So this book breaks up the plants in eco regions. It tells you it's founded numbers 1, 2, and 6, or, whatever. So you know whether or not that plant is going to be hardy enough to survive. And the idea is that these plants, you may have to give a little TLC in the very beginning to get them established, but the idea is that they should be able to survive on the annual rainfall that we historically see within their county, right? So you shouldn't have to be doing a lot of extra watering or a lot of extra fertilizing to make these guys thrive. They should just naturally be able to occur. So this is an example of one really great resource for pollinators too, is butterfly bees. And so, again, going back, so this is a new version. The Texas Wildscape is the new version of the Texas Wildscape Gardening for Wildlife book. But that Texas Wildscape book, you can get it on Amazon, and it comes with an interactive CD. It gives you a list of different plants based on ecoregion. It gives you some designing tips. It's a great resource. So know what types of resources you can utilize. So let's talk a few minutes about some of the plants that are common that we see in a lot of our wildscape. Dripcap, that's a really great one. It's really pretty. It can get really big and tall, and it's a good cover plant. And a lot of these are going to be the same. They're going to be vital to small mammals, birds, and then insects, pollinators, right? Saxonflower is the same thing. Mexican plum, that serves as a great resource for the fruit, as well as for other species utilizing it as well. American Beautyberry. So these are, you have that, yep, it's very pretty and it's really nice, and it provides cover as well as a food source. And so right now we're just talking about food. Texas redbuds, we get called all the time, look at those purple things that are blooming all over when the redbuds are blooming. And so, and I have seen more and more nurseries starting to carry the redbud, because I think people like it because it's a flashy color and it's really, really pretty, and it actually grows pretty quick.
You have to be careful with the Easter crab.
So make sure it's the right, it's the right one. That's the other tricky part, is you really have to know, because sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, this is native, but it's not really the native strain of the species that we're looking for. And then theos. This is a great cover as well as a food source too, and this stuff is really, really pretty. It grows tall and the wind blows, and it's just, I don't know, it's really very mesmerizing looking at a big area of inland theos. It's very, very pretty. Mexican buckeye, another one, another popular one. And so the biggest thing is that you want to pick a variety of plants that offer nectar or some type of fruit year-round, right? So here's an example of one for nectar. And so this is promoting for pollinators, right? And so in the spring, the antelope, corn, milkweed. Summer, the Texas lantana, blue discover in the fall, and then agarita in the winter. And so that's the idea in your wildscape, is that you want to have that diversity all throughout the year. So stuff that's going to bloom and provide food all year round. And then again, you want to try to avoid using pesticides if you can in your garden, because you want to promote, especially these pollinators. Yeah. Wildflowers are always great. You can get really good. So if you ever want to buy native seeds, I would suggest, and I believe it's in your packet, instead of buying seeds at these box stores, buy seeds from one of those designated nurseries that have native seeds, or even better yet, purchase from Native American seeds. And we know that the seeds that they sell, if you tell them what area you're wanting to do and what plants you want, you're going to get exactly what you're asking for. and not just some random mix. So Native American seeds, they're a really, really great resource. So again, this is important for all of these pollinators. And why am I talking so much about pollinators? Well, they're super important, but I just wanted to give our monarchs a quick plug in this program. So how many of you have heard of the monarch population, the monarch butterfly, right? And you've probably heard a lot of times in the news lately about their drastically declining species. And so over 90% decline in the last 20 years they're seeing, okay? And so monarchs migrate through Texas starting in mid-March, and then they migrate back to Mexico around September to October. And there are key periods that we want to have milkweed and nectar-rich flowering plants. So that's why we were focusing a little bit on the nectar stuff, not only for the monarchs, but if you're benefiting the monarchs, you're benefiting a lot of pollinators, right? And lots of people are really gung-ho about monarchs, so we're kind of using that as a way to push people to do native plants. So here's kind of their migration pattern here. So the orange is their fall migration, and then the green is their spring migration. And so you can see it's right in the heart of San Antonio, right? And so we want to really try to help them out so that they can be able to migrate to get to their designated areas. So in 2015, the mayor of San Antonio pledged to become a monarch champion city. So San Antonio is considered a monarch champion city, and they basically pledged to do these 25 specific things throughout the city to encourage homeowners to plant the right type of milkweed, to encourage them to plant native nectar type plants, so that we could be a monarch champion city. So basically trying really hard to ramp up our efforts in this area to help support their migratory pathways to and from. So what do they need from us, right? So they need the native milkweed, and that's a larval host plant. So in order for the larvae to be present, we have to have that native milkweed. And then we also need the flowering plants for the nectar to help the actual butterflies as well, okay? So we can help by planting both. And so there's always this question, like the gentleman brought up, making sure that the native milkweed, because there's all different types of milkweeds out there that are not necessarily native to this area or beneficial to the monarch. So you want to look for these two particular native perennial milkweeds. And again, this is for the larval host plant for the monarchs. And we can talk more about this later. Actually, a whole program on monarchs if you guys are interested. So the antelope corn and yes, like what Liz said. So those are the two that you really, really want to focus on for that larval host plant. And so where do you get that? Sometimes it's hard. So Janet, my office mate, she did some research and found that the Medina Garden Nursery actually has several of the different types of milkweeds that occur here in Bear County that you can plant to benefit these guys. Oh, I didn't realize that kind of. So I can send you this if you're interested, but this basically talks about the different milkweeds and the categories and what they actually, what milkweeds they actually carry at this nursery. So Medina Garden Nursery, so it's just in Medina, Texas, which is not that far from here, but they basically they're one of the biggest nurseries in the area that is providing native milkweeds for San Antonio. So this would be great. And not very far. So that's it on the food. If anybody has questions on providing food, like I said, we can do an entire 2-hour program just on native plants and which ones benefit which. But many times, if you're doing a native plant, it's going to benefit a bunch of different species. Lots of pollinators, lots of small mammals, and sometimes can also provide not only food, but cover for those animals as well. So let's talk about providing water. So like Liz said, it's not as simple as just putting up a bird bath. Can we put up a bird bath? Absolutely. But we want to have it a little bit bigger than that. And so maybe you take a bird bath and you situate it down on the ground so that maybe, different species like lizards or other amphibians or things like that can have access to it. Or you hang it up in a tree, but it can't just be a bird bath. So what did they tell you when you submitted your application? what you needed to do?
I honestly now don't remember,
Okay.
but I know it was something like, well, don't just put a bowl out there.
Right.
You know,
It has to be more of a plan.
right, like either something that will recirculate,
Right.
something with lots of additional ground.
Right, and that's a big thing too, is when you're thinking about water features in your landscape, you want to make sure that if it's deep, that you have a way for the animals to get out. So we work with landowners that want to convert to wildlife tax valuation from ag. And so there is a thing that you can do called trough modification, where they have a big trough where the cattle would drink water. You can modify those troughs by building up kind of like a ladder using rocks or using boards or using heavy gauge chicken wire, so that if birds or babies and that baby wildlife end up falling in there, they have a way to get out, right? So here's this great, little bird bath here. It's attractive but potentially dangerous. Why?
Predators in the bush.
The predators that are sitting in the bushes. So it's kind of like that bird is the bird feeder, right? You have to be really cautious about where you're placing your water and your food sources, because if there's a predator that's hanging out here and knows, oh, the birds come here every single day and hang out in the water and get cool and drink, well, then I'm just going to hang out here and just wait to eat them, right? So you have to be really, really cautious about that. So you can go as extreme as putting in a pond if you really wanted to. This would be great because then you can have all kinds of wildlife that utilize this, but it can also be very expensive, right? So maybe you don't have the time or the money to invest in that. A lot of people go and use prefabricated ponds. You can go to, a box store and purchase one of these, or even, a feed store, purchase one of these and put them in the ground fairly easily. I'll say that easily, right? All that rock, right? The only problem with these is that we have what we call edge issues. So you can see here, this is getting kind of slimy after time, and so it's a little bit difficult. So if, let's say, some species came up to try to drink out of that, and a baby would slip in and fall in there, even a baby duckling too, they might not be able to hop back out, because they would try to grab onto the edge and it was slippery. And so just be cautious of that. Now, if this isn't very deep, then it's probably not a problem. But just make sure that you could easily fix this by taking a couple of rocks and piling them up in the corner and making kind of like a stepping stone out of that, so that the animals can get in and out very easily. Or you can do it like a linear beach type system where animals can easily walk in and out to get a drink of water or to cool off. Now, some people don't like this option because it encourages birds like herons and egrets, if you've got fish in there, just to walk on in and eat as much as their little bellies can take and then walk right out. So maybe if you're doing it to encourage fish, maybe the linear beach isn't necessarily the best idea for that. Moving water. Now that's not a requirement for the Wildscape program, but it's always good to have moving water because, one, it does circulate the water, so it helps to reduce algae buildup. And then also who doesn't love the sound of moving water? And then especially depending on where you have it in your landscape, moving water can help to attract wildlife to the water feature. It's not being difficult for them to get to or see. So then you provided food, you provided water, and now you're going to provide shelter. I love that. So a lot of people say, oh, shelter, I got this. I'm going to put up a nest box, and that's done, right? Well, again, a nest box is good. It's adequate to providing shelter, but many times it's a people thing, right? We put up a nest box thinking that we're doing good. We're feeding animals. We think we're doing good by feeding them, out of bird feeders. So we really want to focus on natural shelter types. But nest boxes can be beneficial if they're done properly. And so you really want to make sure that you're watching out for those invader species like the starlings and the sparrows, because many times that's what ends up getting attracted to these nest boxes. Or you open it up and there's a wasp nest in there, right? And so we really want to focus on that natural habitat. But if you decide to go for a nest box, you can't just buy any old nest box off the internet or whatever. Different species require different dimensions. And so if you're interested in specific dimensions and specific placement, for different nest boxes, email me and I can send you some information on that. Only a few birds, about 80 of our native species, will actually, they're cavity nesters. And so if they're not a natural cavity nester, they're not going to utilize a nest box. They wouldn't utilize it anyway, right? Again, specific dimensions and features to those. So the hole placement, how big the hole is, perches, no perches, there's all these different specifications. You can't just put up something that you built in the 5th grade and expect something native to actually use it, right? Make sure that it's placed at the appropriate height and area. So there are specific things that say, only place 1 box per acre for this particular species, and it needs to be so far from water, or it needs to be so far from a tall tree. And it must be maintained. So you want to maintain these, you want to clean them out every single year, you want to keep an eye on them, make sure that, it's not getting overrun by fire ants or by predators, and so there's things that you can do to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. You want to make sure that you use untreated wood. So if you use treated wood, that's toxic, for the birds as well. And many times they're not going to use it because it smells funny, right? And so you're just kind of wasting your time. You want to have an overhanging sloped roof. So you see there how it stopped that, so that when it rains, this whole thing doesn't fill up with water, right? Usually they have a hole or two on the bottom of the nest box so that if water does happen to get in there, the water can drain out. You want to have rough interior walls. Why do you think that would be important? Did you see on this one, you notice how it's got that chicken wire right there? Why do you think they have that there? Yeah, for the babies. When they're first learning how to fly, they don't know how to fly or really jump up, so they climb up on the side or the inside of the wall, and they get out on the little opening, and then they get ready to jump off and see if they can fly. Drainage holes in the bottom, ventilation near the top and the side, so that it doesn't stay super hot, and easy access. So many times these are either accessible by opening the back, or you just click on a hinge system, the top or the back, or one of the sides has a hinge system, so that you can easily maintain it, and you can also just monitor it that way too. And then no outside perches. So these birds that are nesting, they're natural cavity nesters. In nature, where do you ever see a perch just perfectly placed right outside of a hole of a tree, right? They're not there. So if you put up a perch like that, you're going to increase your chances of getting those starlings and sparrows, right? So no perches. So here's kind of a general rule of thumb, but again, if you want more detailed information about specific nest box dimensions, you can find it on our website, or you can send me an email. So bluebirds, typically 1 box per acre, wrens 1 per 200 feet, the titmouse 1 per 8 acres, the screech owls 1 per 100 feet, but about 1 per acre is probably about good practice. You can also not only do bird nest boxes, but you can do them for bats and for bees as well. So, I'm going to show you this. What is this down here? Yes. So let's talk about predators, right? So just like you think about predators that stop your feeders, you can do the same thing with the nest boxes. And so, this guy looks pretty fat and happy, right? He probably went in there and ate all those eggs, and he's happy as can be, right? Waiting for the moment to come back. And so you can see here, even with this one, he's still able to climb up that galvanized steel, right? So you've got to be really, really cautious with that. This one has one, and the raccoon's just using it to help it get even further in the box, right? And so cats, also raccoons, all kinds of, if you mount your nest boxes to trees, it also increases the chances of predators, because it's easy for a lot of these guys to climb trees and get into there as well. So there's different things that you can do. So this is a stovepipe baffle, which again, sometimes you might still have that just determined snake or determined raccoon that's going to try to still utilize that as a way to help them get up to that nest box. This has been shown to be more effective, the cone guard. And so you can buy just a sheet of metal and just cut it out and put it around and You pack it down, and it's very, very simple to do, very inexpensive to do, and it's been shown to be pretty effective at deterring raccoons and snakes. The snake will not be able to climb up that. Of course, you want to make sure that this part right here is very tight around that hole, right? You want to make sure that it's super tight so that the snake can't do that. Have you used those before?
We had a biologist 20 years ago, go down to our lake house, lake Corpus Christi, and he was interested in trying to perpetuate wood ducks. And he came in and he planted the telephone poles in the lake off the pier, and he put up the wood duck boxes. Well, since then we've had several storms, and some people have one boxes up, but now we have 35 to 40 wood ducks in the area.
Oh, great.
And it was those stones. Stones still around that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very effective.
The box is gone, the stone's still there.
That's awesome. Here shows you too how you can increase, so you can do with PVC pipe, but then things can still climb up and down that pole. With a stovepipe guard, they've got that guard here on top that prevents things from being able to go up. But again, I feel like that metal guard, the cone thing, is probably going to be your best bet when it comes. But there are different options out there that you could try.
One of the other things that I've heard too is keep it away from like a tree where they can
jump from the tree. Yeah, so that's what I was saying, like when the placement on these things are key. You can't just throw up a bluebird box and expect them to come. The placement is key. So it's different areas, away from trees, close to water, not close to water, depends on the species you're trying to attract. So you can't just throw something up there and expect it to happen. Same with the bats. If you're interested in bat boxes, Bat Conservation International has the best design plans on there. They sell all kinds of bat boxes online, but we found that most of them, the dimensions are not right, and the bats won't use them. And so there's too much space usually, they make them too big. And the bats like to be right on top of each other because they want to keep them warm. And so yeah, the opening of the bat box is super tiny, and they like to be squished together like that. So just keep in mind that when you're doing bat houses or bat or nesting boxes, that there are specific dimensions that we recommend, and not just to buy stuff that you see at Hobby Lobby or whatever. Entrance guard, and so this is the protection so that other animals can't come and gnaw around the edge, or like woodpeckers would come and peck out all the wood around it to make the hole bigger. Because if you make the hole bigger than what is specified, then you have other intruders that end up coming in there as well. Not only nest boxes that provide shelter, but taller grasses. And so, like I said, this is a challenge, especially in some homeowners associations, when you get that letter on your door when your grass is just even this high, right? And so taller grasses is going to provide a lot of cover for a lot of animals, to include the little cottontails here in this picture. And then varying heights of bushes and trees. I found a little hummingbird nest in my tree. I just have a little oak tree in the front yard. And I mean, you would never even notice it if I hadn't just like almost walked right into it. It was literally this tiny. It was so small. But it was a hummingbird nest, and it didn't have any eggs in it. But it was really cool to see the nest. So did you know that hummingbird eggs are like the size of a Tic Tac? That's so cool, right? It's so cool. And so, because they're little tiny little things, right? It's so cool. So, other shelter components of snags. So this one over here, if you are on a property, probably less likely in a neighborhood, but if you're on a property and you have some trees that you lost due to drought or maybe even disease, you can leave those trees up if they're not a safety issue. So if it's not going to fall on a house or fall on someone, you can leave those trees up, and they're called snags, and they're very beneficial to a lot of tabby nesting animals as well as all kinds of invertebrates and stuff that utilize them. This is great. This is kind of like a rock bed, and so this is great for all kinds of lizards. And so I had Government Canyon out of our office who put down this flagstone path with a little bit of sand along there. We thought that was a great idea. It was not. Because it's all unneeded now because the lizards bury down into the sand, and they push the sand out. And so now when we walk on it, it's all uneven, and they like hanging out underneath there because it's warm for them, and they like that. They need that warmth. Something as simple, and maybe you can't keep your tree up, your dead tree up, so you cut it down. Well, you can cut it down into smaller pieces and just leave that down on the ground, and all kinds of critters will utilize that. And then again, those brush piles. A lot of people do the brush piles and the down logs and they think it's snakes. So I will tell you that if you do these types of practices on your property, it's not just going to attract snakes, it's going to attract all kinds of other things, but maybe just don't do them super close to your house. Right? But you maybe wouldn't want to do this close to your house anyways, because you want to be fire-wise as well. So just do it in an area where it's not gonna be up close to your house. And then last but not least, arrange in space. So we want to have that diversity, right? And so that's kind of what your goal is when you're creating a wildscape, is having that diversity of grasses and boards and brush and bushes and the taller canopies as well. And so you want to have that layering. Again, here's some real life examples of the ground layer, the understory, and the canopy. And you want to, when you're designing your landscape, and you see in some of those booklets, that you want to design it to where the animals can utilize the food, water, and shelter in the space that you are making available to them. They can use it wisely. So you wouldn't want to put like water here and their shelter feature here and have all this piece of grass, right? Because how are they supposed to safely get from water to their shelter without being exposed to potential predators, right? So you want to increase movement through connectivity. So pretend these are different habitat patches, right? Or different resources. So you can see when you connect the resources with the native habitat, then the animals can move back and forth more freely. Does that make sense? Everybody? Same here. Yes.
Going back to this bird picture, the water picture. Yes, it should have a lot of thickets around it in case the cat is hiding in there. But at the same time, you want pond cover.
Yes.
So I'm having trouble with the balance.
Right, and so we usually say in situations like you have a pond, at least 50% of the perimeter of the pond should have some type of natural habitat around it. At least 50%. So that also helps with if you're, especially in a neighborhood where you might have more runoff, that's going to help with, filtering out any of those pollution.
And the same thing when you have a pond, and I had a pond before, not to darken the pond. Darkening the pond creates heat from natural from the sun, and it's going to encourage algae growth. If you can, I use shade white, non-toxic, epoxy paste, painting it, and it was so much better. I had less algae, I had more environment that came in and was partaking of it, and didn't get much of that.
Right. Well, a lot of times with those pre-fabricated ponds, they come black, and you can line the bottom with white rock, or if you don't want to paint it, or there's a bunch of different options out there. So essentially, I'm creating these corridors. I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly, just so you can understand. Not just having these gaps of Bermuda grass, but trying to connect what you're doing. And you can see that in some of these design plans and some of those handouts there. And so you're wanting to increase that movement. And so, of course, they're going to have difficulty possibly even getting to your habitat in your backyard because of fences. So they're already having to overcome that obstacle just to get there. So more likely you're probably going to have more occurrences of birds and things that can fly, right, butterflies and things like that, than you would something that would have to try to cross the fence. So we want to just basically, the idea here is having everything connected so that they can easily get to the food, water, and shelter that you're providing for them and be able to be protected from habitat, okay? Edge and boundaries. So, in nature, we usually don't see these types of boundaries unless it's along a fence line, right? And so in nature, it's more fluid and more just kind of lollygagging around, right? And so that's what you want to try to focus on, making it more of a natural pathway rather than a non-natural pathway, so that you can have increased movement along there. So here's just a quick example of your house with your patio and your hot tub. You already have an existing pond, and you have an existing tree, and then you've got some hedges all around the perimeter. And so this is kind of an example of how they could utilize different plants, native plants that would be flowering throughout the year, right? Of different heights, so some trees, some shrubs, some bushes, and then things that, you increase some of the vegetation up around the pond. So there's just lots of different things that you can do, and then this I think is like a walking path that they put. And so essentially this is obviously extreme, right? When everybody loves to do this. So maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe you just focus your efforts towards like this back corner, right? And so you just do a little bit at a time to gradually increase the number of native plants that you have in your yard. And so here's an example of someone that has a small yard. They're like, I don't have very much space to begin with. What in the world would I do? Well, here's a before picture, and here's after. So something as simple as this could be very beneficial to a number of wildlife species that we've been talking about, and it provides you a great place to sit and watch, right? So wildscapes are beneficial to the wildlife, beneficial to us. It helps remove some of those pollutants that we have in our environments, especially in these urban areas. It helps with fragmentation, and just there's a lot of different benefits to that. So I'm going to show you just a couple of examples of some. This is up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is one of the presidents of the Native Plant Society. Of course, he went to the extreme, right? This was his property, and he put down mulch, prepping his bed, because that's the other frustrating thing. Sometimes our soil just is not very nutrient rich, right? And so you have to add nutrients back into the soil to allow these things to grow. So putting in your mulch, he's making this, he put down a liner and then some rocks, and so he's making this water feature. And as you can see, this is in his front yard, okay? This is in his front yard. And so not many communities, I will caution you, talk to your HOA before you do anything, because we have had it to where people call us and they say, well, we did what you told us, and then our HOA came by and signed us. Well, unfortunately, HOAs don't necessarily know the benefits of having native plants in your yard and that they're not weeds, right? And so it's sometimes a challenge. And so we have written letters to HOAs and talked about the benefits of having native plants and encouraged it, but sometimes they don't care. They don't want to hear it. But sometimes it's a win, okay? So we actually had this one gentleman, and he was a master naturalist up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He had this beautiful wildscape in his front yard. And his HOA came by and taken him, and he was like, and he did this whole program for his HOA, talked about the benefit of wildscape, how to get certified. He got another ticket a few weeks later because he wasn't going to tear it out. He's like, I'm not going to do it. And then he had us go and talk to the HOA, and we talked about it, and then a few weeks later, he's out in his front yard, and here comes the code compliance people, and he's like, oh, great, maybe another $100 fine or whatever. So the code compliance guy comes up, and he comes walking up, and he's got something in his hand, and he's like, well, you guys are here to give me a ticket. And he goes, nope, we're here to give you the best front yard HOA. So he puts a sign in front of his yard. Now, it took many months for them to get to that, but that goes to show you that education really does work. And, between the master naturalists helping with that and the parks and wildlife helping with that, that's definitely something that, we can help out with if you're having a problem with that. Or just do it in your backyard, because they won't have right. So this is his front yard, actually, after several growing seasons. Of course, this is not what it smells like in the very beginning. And then this is how he landscapes his front yard along his fence. And so doesn't that look a lot more pretty to me than just something, just that you normally see in a normal area. And once HOA boards see how this isn't just letting your grass grow up to your knees, this is actual planned landscaping, many times they're going to be receptive to it. So that's him. So now instead of him mowing every single weekend and having to put a bunch of fertilizer down, he gets to sit in his backyard and his front yard and enjoy all of his labor that he put into putting in these native plants. And then I said that it's not just a backyard habitat program. This is Sierra Verde Golf Course. I think I may have mentioned this when we talked the last time. But so this is Beautyberry Golf Course, and they basically wanted to turn their golf course into more of a natural area. So the golf course is in Arlington. It's about 200 acres, and only about 98 acres of that is affected by the green. The rest of it they wanted to leave and promote to be more natural. So even their water features that they have on the property, they had a bunch of master naturalists and native plant people and parks and wildlife come out and volunteer to make their water features, turn them into wetlands, okay? This is one of their water features. You can see there's the green up there, right? So literally you're on this golf course and it feels like you're in the middle of this oasis. It's beautiful. They have nature hikes out here. They have birding contests out here. You see all kinds of really cool wildlife species out there. And they welcome that kind of stuff. They also did some big grassland restorations too, where they focus on native grasslands. And so golf courses are now getting credit for being more environmentally friendly like this. So it's a new certification process that they can go through to make their golf courses look like this. So this is just amazing, and you can see all of that in the background, and just a little bit of the green. So nature is the gardener's best designer, and so I'm going to leave you with that. Make sure that you like our Facebook page, because we do have lots of great information and upcoming programs on our Facebook page. This is San Antonio Urban Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife. I don't know, we've been following a lot of, I don't know how many of you have heard of the invasive zebra mussels. We just recently found those in Canyon Lake, and then just a few days ago, they confirmed them in Lake Travis. Very, very detrimental. So if you have a watercraft or trailer that goes in and out of our water, please make sure you rinse, drain, and dry your boats and watercraft. Because that's going to help to reduce any of these aquatic hitchhikers, is what we call them. So like our Facebook page for current information that's going on. And then here's my contact information, and I also have some cards at the back too. Feel free to give us a call right now. We're not in the office very much because our air conditioner is out. So I've been super busy traveling and doing lots of programs and lots of workshops and stuff. So we do call and check our voicemail, but we're not at the office and probably won't be for another couple of weeks. So email probably the easiest way to text me if you need something, but you can always have our phone number too. So, and then feel free, I brought plenty of handouts, so if you want to take some for your HOAs or for your friends and family, feel free to take them because I've got plenty more at the office. So, you got any questions? That's a lot of information to cover.
Yeah, I have a question about that. I know there's different species of bats, but aren't a lot of the bats that we have colony bats that they wouldn't go into a box?
Not necessarily. So you can make bigger bat boxes, and even, the Mexican free-tail bat is the most common bat that we have here in Beard County, but we have about 12 species of bats that we can actually find here in Beard County, and not all of them are these big roosting bats. And so, but most likely you would get Mexican free-tail bats, and even though the bat box is only about this big, you're going to get probably over 100 of them in a box like that. Because they want to be right on top of each other. And speaking of that, let me just tell you about an event that's coming up right before school starts. It's the second Tuesday in August. I think it's the 8th or something like that. I'm not sure on the calendar. Second Tuesday in August is called Bat Loco Bash. You guys can come out and check it out if you fellas like it. And so basically it's down by the Pearl Brewery. And it's put on through San Antonio River Authority, Parks and Wildlife, and Bat Conservation International. So I'll be down there. I'll have a booth with our mammal skins and skulls and tracks stuff. And basically we have about 50,000 Mexican free-tail bats, most of them being males, that emerge from the I-35 bridge at Camden and Newell Street. So if you've ever been down in that area, you know where the Pearl Brewery, the little fish hang from underneath the bridge right there at 35. That's where we're going to be. Check our Facebook page for more information on that. And it's really cool. We have Batman comes out, and we have a bat car. We have food trucks. We have like probably 20 different educational vendors that educating the public about bats and wildlife and all kinds of natural resources. And so it's a really cool event. And you get to watch the bats come out. Which is really cool. And the bats come out every single night. So they're there now. So if you can't come to that event, just go down there, it always cracks me up. Sometimes the bats, they don't cooperate, right? And I cannot tell you how many people have asked me, what do you do when it's going to let the bats down? I don't let them out. They just come out whenever they want. So the last couple of years, with all the rain, they've had plenty to eat. So when they go out, they get really full. And so then they come out later at night. So usually they come out right before the sun goes down. But last year, we were doing these events, and they were coming out later and later every single time because they were already full from the night before. So they were just come out later. So, but it's kind of cool. And so we've got several bridges actually in San Antonio that have Mexican retail bats in them. And so it's not. When they made those bridges, they didn't realize how beneficial they were going to be for bats because essentially they're roosting in there because of the expansion joints underneath the bridge. And it's great for them because it's really hot, right? Since the sun's being down on the bridge and it's really hot underneath there, and they love it. And so we've encouraged Prescott to continue building their bridges that way so that we have extra habitat for these bats.
Well, in my parking garages,
Yeah.
that's what it says, they have this fancy size with it.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. We had to do some stuff with USAA because in one parking garage they had the Mexican retail bag and they had barn swallow, and so that whole entire parking garage was covered with food.
New location that people have not noticed is the fact that the I-10 bridge over Van Jackson, you can sit there at the Bill Miller's across the street, and you can watch them come out between 7:30 and 9 o'clock at night. All of a sudden, they'll open up and there's this black board that's coming out on the bridge. It's like, wow. But people didn't know right there at the Van Jackson Bridge.
Right. And I think that's something we need to try to do a little bit better of, because in Houston, they monitor the bridges and they know of a lot of different locations, and I feel like we don't really do that here in San Antonio. I think that's something that maybe we could start doing, like putting together a bat team and having volunteers. It's pretty easy to locate where they're at based on just looking up at the expansion joints, and there's things you can look for that would say whether or not they're there or not. And plus the smell guano. It's a pretty easy smell to notice.
All I had was very volatile. I put up 2 back boxes. One down at the ranch on a Ecological, and one at the house. Here, the one at the house was occupied by bats. The one down at the ranch was occupied by swallows.
Nice.
And it took over, so it was a natural wood box.
Right.
So I figured, okay, I'll do better. But I've got 3 bats that stay in that one, and that one on highly volatile.
Yeah, it's good fertilizer though.
Yeah.
Did you know that for the guano, we can talk about this all day, I'm sure. For the guano, they use it as fertilizer and they used to use it as ammunition. Gunpowder. Did you know that? That's cool, right? Poop and gunpowder. They're like, oh. All right, well, I'll hang out for a little bit if you guys have additional questions, but thank you all so much. You guys have been a great audience.